this, and look at that prize distribution on your screen. $105,000 for first place, $45,000 for second place, and of course $27,000 for third place. This match right here is great because it determines who goes on to the upper bracket finals, and because you make it to that upper bracket finals, that means you're guaranteed at least third place, which means you're at least getting $27,000 for your team. So this is going to be a big matchup, and what we have today is actually, they asked me what I wanted to see on stage, and I told them I wanted to see Bring It. Absolutely wanted to, because we have such an amazing story of Snutz coming so close so many times over and over and over. You know, this is going to be his third time in the finals, basically.
Yep.
You know, the upper bracket, being able to place so close to winning that first place in the last couple of years. So we can see if this is his year to do it. And I know a lot of people that I've talked to are saying, you know, this could be the year. You know, that they're even more confident that he has a shot at it this year than any year in the past.
Yep, like you said, Snutz is a player we've seen in tournaments for a really long time. He's been playing Warlock forever, although we've seen him one or two tournaments on a different class, maybe playing Rogue. But Warlock is his main class. That's what he's known for, and no matter what patch, what spec he's playing, he's stuck with it. He's been one of the best, whether he's playing Destruction, Affliction, or Demonology,
and there
as
we
he's
go.
playing right now.
And there are your players, of course, Venruki, Snutz, and Collective. I mean, very well-known players. Look at those guys. Faces that everyone who's been watching even more than one WoW tournament knows those faces, of course. You know, we've seen Collective playing all the way from level 60, sticking with that Resto Shaman. He actually has one of the more famous original arena movies from level 60 when that first 2.0 patch hit. Of course, the other team is going to be LGIM. So we are probably going to be seeing that MLS mirror, kind of like what we saw in the last round. So it'll be interesting to see if LGIM can handle that Demo Warlock, which kind of gave them trouble.
They got a little bit more experience playing against it, and they might switch their strategies up a little bit, because they know that, you know, Adouken is a little bit vulnerable getting that burst off with that Aura of Enfeeblement, slowing his casts, and, you know, the mage on that team is a vulnerable target as well. We're going to see if, you know, they're going to change their strats up a little bit. I still expect Adouken to be playing Destruction, because he's just wanting to stick with, you know, his spec. He's just trying to make it work, trying to do it, and, you know, here we see him in this top four. So he's definitely gone well so far.
Absolutely, and a really impressive play. I mean, I know that we've talked about it before, Chaos Bolts. Every single time you see him start to cast one, the enemy team has to do something, because they can follow up with so much instant damage after it. And it looks like, of course, on the second stream it's going to be our second and third place seeds that are going to be playing, and of course that is Team EG and Yaz Presents. So our top four again is going to be LGIM from Korea. We have Bring It from North America. Couple Canadian players on the team, and of course Team EG, which also has some Canadian and American players on it, and of course LGIM and Yaz Presents from Europe. You know, seeing that name Another has been, again, he's been in so many tournaments for so long.
And actually, right before this, Yaz Presents did actually beat Team EG. They had you know, a really long match against him, where they actually ended up beating them on damage, because the warrior care on that team is just capable of outputting just insane pressure all throughout. He's mobile, he's swapping targets whenever target starts kiting him. He's just capable of sticking on the target that is most vulnerable and doing damage and damage and damage. So make sure you guys maybe open 2 streams at once, check out both games going on. But here we're going to be seeing these MLS mirrors going at it.
Yeah, and I really wanted to see this, especially because of what just happened on this stream, where Team Double G beat LGIM, and especially because that is the specs that are going to be playing. One of the things to note that you guys can watch at home is watch the mana of Collective, and every time that he has that one moment where he can sit down and drink, he's going to, and that's a huge deal, especially in this matchup, because if it does come down to mana, you know, he might be able to play a little bit more offensive or not. And it's interesting to see, he actually, no, it looks like he did swap. He was running that int and max mana gem, because of course we did have mana pools that were normalized in this expansion. I like that. We talked about health pools being normalized before. As you can see, both Avenger and Shocky basically the same hit points.
Yep.
And then of course we do have Snutz, who is playing a Warlock, and Adouken playing the Warlock, and they do have that passive health bonus. So unless your class has that base extra health bonus, you have the exact same hit points, which is about going to be 375k, and of course all mana users, unless they're a hybrid, so they get 60,000 mana. But if you are a primary caster or healer, you're going to have that 300,000 mana. Gates are about to start, and it looks like we are going to be following Snutz right from the start, as he is going to be playing that demonology.
Gateway probably. We're going to see if the Warlocks are going to go for the demonic gateways right away. Here we see Snutz.
There we go.
Yeah, he's trying to set it up. Let's see if Avenger gets him out of it. No, it doesn't look like it. Where Adouken, it looks like he did get locked, and Venruki did come in there and prevented that from happening.
This is kind of what happened. Adouken did sack his pet right there. I like that he tries to use that spell lock right from the beginning, as Havoc is going to be tossed out, and it looks like Venruki taking a lot of damage from the beginning, already using that Incanter's Ward, as Snutz is able to get that aura up, which is so important in this matchup. His pet is taking a lot of damage right now. Interesting to see that Adouken and Avenger are both going to be targeting Snutz's pet right there, as we see a Frost Bomb damage come off, but Adouken taking a lot of damage right now, down to half, but he does have that Earth Shield up already, as a big heal comes out by Shotki, who is, looks like, okay, so not sure what happened with this match right here, but we're going to get re-queued pretty quickly, and look at that. Collective is sitting down, drinking right there, so we'll get into the next match really quickly, but not sure if maybe one of the players had
unplugged their keyboard
issues
by accident. It can happen.
It definitely can, or if you forgot to unbind the switch action bar.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe that's bound by default. I mean, it was one of the things in past games that a lot of players used, like Dark Age of Camelot, for example. You had to switch. You couldn't macro everything, so you had to switch the tabs really quickly on your action bar. But in WoW, since you can.
But remember, actually, when World of Warcraft came out back in vanilla, you didn't actually have that many action bars. There was add-ons that came up with the idea of action bars at first, and then Blizzard actually took those things and implemented that in the game, as happened to a lot of things. Like, quest tracking, all these things actually were implemented later in the game as add-on authors, came up with these ideas and implemented them.
So that opener right there, I liked that that Venruki played kind of offensive on that to stop that gateway, because I mean, the gateway is going to play a big deal in these matches if they ever have to retreat, especially if it's the Warlock being targeted. He's going to be able to use his portal and stuff, but once that's down, being able to take the gateway to either get into the back end of the fray or use it as an escape mechanism.
Yep. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and you actually shared some advanced Warlock knowledge with me about the portal cooldown for Demonology Warlocks.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
If you guys didn't know, when a Warlock goes into Metamorphosis, the portal cooldown is a different one.
Yeah, so they're they're going to be able to switch out faster as a Demonology Warlock. It'll be interesting to see who they target in this matchup. LGIM, of course, has many different ways of providing burst of damage. And now one interesting thing to note, of course, is going to be Snutz instead of playing that Undead Warlock, because he is going to maximize his burst potential by having that Blood Fury and playing an Orc Warlock. So you at home, if you're choosing to play Demo and you really need that burst, switching your race to Orc can help that out, instead of having the extra Will of Forsaken as that Fear Break. Of course, we are going to be following Snutz out from the start yet again. Actually, let's switch to Adouken as he tries to get that portal out, and he is going to get...
Both Warlocks get spell locked, so no portals, and there we go. They're pushing out a little bit in the open, seeing what kind of pressure they could put out. Avenger's already dropping down a little bit. He gets hexed as well with a Fear and Shocky, so he's going to have to get out and do something about it. Adouken is probably going to sacrifice his pet pretty soon to get the damage. He gets polymered for a little bit, but Snutz is there in the middle. He gets Deep Freeze, and a Frost Bomb goes on him, but he's not going to take too much damage. Collective keeps him alive.
Yeah, use that Sacrificial Pact, which is a huge amount of damage absorption. Damages his pet a little bit down to half, but then this is an interesting play. There we go. So Snutz having to use that Sacrificial Pact is going to damage his health, his pet's health down to 50%, and then what they did is they immediately turned around and killed it. Shocky taking a lot of damage though right now, as he has to use the Battlemaster's Trinket plus Astral Shift. Again, these foreign shamans just using so many available globals to keep themselves alive, such as using that Astral Shift.
You know, Astro Shift is a cooldown you have to activate ahead of time, as we saw already dipped low. So that's why a lot of shamans prefer to go for the other choices in that tier, the ones that activate automatically. But as we can see right here, Shotki doesn't have a PvP trinket. Nobody except Avenger on that team has a PvP trinket, whereas Snutz and Collective do have PvP trinkets. Venruki sits a little bit of a CC here, so you know his deep cooldown is still refreshing. He needs to have it to do some burst.
Oh, there we go. Now this is going to be an interesting situation for Snutz. Actually, he is able to get into Metamorphosis and recast that pet pretty quickly because that demonic rebirth cooldown is on him, as he is going to get dispelled out of that ring right there, but his pet is not dispelled out. So they were able to kill 2 of Snutz's pets so far, as we see that Havoc on to Snutz right there, but not Adouken doesn't look like he's going to be able to do too much except for try to kill the pet, and this means Snutz is now stuck because his he has a minute cooldown on summoning that pet when he's in Metamorphosis. So see, he's not going to have a pet for a little bit, and that's kind of a dangerous situation because that provides that mortal strike for his team.
Wow, and look at Venruki doing damage to Adouken almost by himself. Snutz was sitting there in the back, but Venruki got Adouken to down to 50% health. Now we see them swapping a little bit of Avenger. He pops that Incanter's Word to absorb some damage, increase his own damage for the next 20 seconds. And Snutz seemed to be the target. He dips down to 30%. Collective gets defrozen. Snutz really needs to get out of there.
That was a good leap. That was a good leap by Snutz as he leaped behind the pillar to line of sight, forcing the enemy mage to blink towards him and keep him in line of sight. Of course, Avenger taking a bunch of damage as he gets howled out and choosing to will out of that. So his PvP trinket's going to be set on a short cooldown since they have a shared cooldown. Looks like Venruki quickly got that spell steal out onto the Dark Soul, but he wasn't able to put too much pressure out onto LGIM. Adouken getting, looks like he has 2 Burning Embers right now, I do believe, as he is going to try to put some damage out onto Snutz. An easy way to tell what he's focusing is watch for the conflag debuff. And that's how you can tell what he's choosing to go on. As we see a coil, that AE coil, doing a great job playing destruction.
Hex on Venruki too. Venruki's going to be CC'd for a little bit there. He does trinket that, so
ooh, the ring. The ring is on Snutz as Adouken was counterspelled right there. Venruki doing a great job of stopping that damage.
Collective eats a sheep, and Snutz is down in a deep freeze. That frost bomb explodes, but Collective manages to link just in time.
He had to trinket and link at that point, so that's 2 important cooldowns that they forced out of Collective. Somebody who normally hasn't been pressured very much in to be placed in those situations yet. Of course, when we were watching these players, this exact matchup earlier off stage yesterday, the Korean players of LGIM were complaining that Collective never dies. So their strategy might be to not even worry about killing Collective. And it looks like a lot of damage onto Snutz, and he's able to get his pet back up, luckily, but that means he's still going to have the cooldown since he must have instant summoned that, unless I missed that on stream. But he's able to get his aura back up, shifting in quickly.
But wow, there the pet goes down once again. Adouken and Avenger targeting Snutz's pet. Snutz is having to sit by these pillars. There goes a Ring of Frost onto Snutz, but he gets out of there pretty quickly. Collective gets defrozen. Are we going to see a Frost over him? No, not really. He's in a pretty good position. He's not able to be swapped on. Adouken seems to be the target of choice for Venruki and Snutz. They're trying to do damage, but because Snutz doesn't have his pet, he just doesn't have this much resource generation. He can't go Metamorphosis and do a lot of damage. He can pop in, get that aura of enfeeblement, but not really land those chaos waves that he really needs to do damage.
It looks like a double howl right there. Looks like Avenger did have to trinket that, as we do see Shocky also having to toss down that Tremor to get his other player out, and actually he just had to trinket also, so that's a couple big cooldowns, as he did Nature Swiftness also, even though it does have a minute cooldown. But look at that, Adouken identifying that the burst was going to come onto him, and he's already have that dark regen up and healing through it. Double coil with a poly onto Venruki right now. This match is definitely going back and forth, but here comes Adouken with that Chaos Bolt. Oh, he barely gets line of sighted right there with a spell steal by Venruki yet again. Venruki doing a great job of not only keeping himself alive, but helping out his team with as much crowd control as he can. Blanket counterspell and a Howl of Terror onto Adouken, who's taking so much damage right now. No crowd control onto Adouken though. Onto Shocky, who does toss down that grounding totem and stopped a lot of that damage with that, but look at that.
We do have Frost and Shocky, and he's sitting in that for full duration, so Adouken, he's going to have the Frost Bomb explode in just a bit, but no, it seems like Shocky's, with the grounding totem, very short cooldown with that talent, he's able to pick him back up.
So Adouken did have to burn his Dark Bargain right there, which is that big absorb, as look at that, he's going on to the pet yet again, and this strategy is paying off for them because Snutz isn't able to do as much damage as he would like to in those small windows of opportunity just take longer for him to get, as we see a deep onto Snutz right now, that sacrificial pact come out, which actually took half of his life because he didn't have a pet, and that's why it's so important to kill a pet in these situations where you know
Collective
the game
had to trinket there to keep him alive. Now he eats a fear, and Vinruki's sitting in a full sheep, so Snutz is basically alone. He's sitting behind this pillar, just trying to think, how am I going to build my demonic fury?
Yep, and there we go, that Howl coming and hitting Avenger, poly onto Shocky, which is a full poly, not able to get out of it because he doesn't have a PvP trinket yet. And look at the difference in mana between Shocky and Collective. Even though Snutz has been taking a lot of damage, both Vinruki and Snutz have been doing enough damage to force Shocky into a position. He may just be purging a lot more, but there goes the Chaos Bolt on to, it looks like Snutz, who doesn't take too much damage from it, luckily, as he's able to live through that. Collective is back with him. That Frost Orb comes out onto the team of Bring It, giving that mage lots of fingers of frost to work with, but not too much damage. That grounding goes down. Collective doing a great job of line of sighting constantly. Oh, he almost got that Hex off, but he is going to be feared, having to Tremor out of that fear so he can keep his teammate completely up. See a couple purges coming out from him.
You see a swap on Shocky, actually. There goes a deep freeze. Is he going to be able to get frozen? No. Snutz with the Chaos Waves, but Shocky just gets behind that pillar. He's able to keep himself alive. Adouken throws out a Mortal Coil 2 just to protect this healer at the perfect time, and we saw that Fire Elemental 2 coming out from Collective, but Avenger, he gets swapped and he dropped down to 30% health. Wow, he doesn't need to block right there as Shocky picks him up, but that's so much damage coming out from Snutz. He's bringing it back. His pet is alive. It's not being pressured. No, there we go. He's down to 50% health, but Collective is actually targeting the pet. He's making sure he can heal him. Shocky actually had to trinket a deep freeze right there to make sure he's alive, because had that Frostbomb explode, he would have been in so much trouble. Snutz gets deeped, and Hex goes down to Collective, so Snutz drops down to about 50% health, but Vinruki dispels that Hex. He has to trinket out, and then he eats a polymorph straight out of that.
As he gets dispelled, Vinruki was polyed right there. Now the big thing to note was in the last burst that Bring It tossed out when they were doing damage to Avenger, he didn't have to burn anything, which was extremely important. Of course, Shocky needing to trinket right now, so his trinket has been down for a little while as he gets the Chaos Wave on top of those deep freeze. He doesn't have much to work with as that Astral Shift comes up and he barely lives through it. Adouken doing a great job of tossing out a little bit of crowd control onto the enemy team. Snutz, of course, looking to target Adouken, it looks like. There we go. Now he's going to toss it. He's going to go back into Metamorphosis quickly, refreshing that aura, trying to get some Dooms out onto Shocky as we see that Ancestral Swiftness come out, as we do have a Hex, a running Hex, which might have been grounded right there. Didn't affect anyone unless it was instantly dispelled, as Vinruki is going to spell steal that Dark Soul yet again, getting that mastery, getting the crit buff actually, so it's not going to matter too much compared to as if he was playing Destruction.
Now we saw a little bit of pressure from Adouken and Avenger on Collective, but Collective was in a perfect position. They used their unused trinkets, but Collective was able to keep himself in a great spot. Now Snutz gets a new pet out, and he's going to be able to build his Demonic Fury. He's got his Wild Imps going too, so he's doing a lot of damage to Adouken, but Adouken gets polymorphed by Vinruki. Maybe they're trying to switch on a different target. We see a Halotera and Avenger and a Deep Freeze on Shocky. Are they going to follow through? Yes, 50% cast waves, and a Soul Link goes out from Shocky just to keep himself alive. He doesn't have any cooldowns left. His whole team is rotting.
That Spirit Link Totem really saved them. Look at the pet health, though. If you watch Adouken, he is constantly targeting Snutz's pet over and over and over. Because Demonic Rebirth is down right now, but Adouken taking a lot of damage, down to 100k health right now, as he is going to portal away, try to resummon a Healthstone. That means he's used 3 charges of that Healthstone so far. He may have been faking it, though, as he is going to, wow, look at that ring, is going to be on top. That was a great counter spell onto Vinruki, though, who right after that Palm Ring was going to start tossing out more crowd control, but here we go.
Deep freeze can't handle any Frostbomb, and he goes down to the concentrated damage from Snutz and Vinruki.
And, I mean, Shocky even had his trinket up at that point. You know, his Ascendance was just used in that situation. His Hellstone wasn't back up, but you know, this is what Bring It needs to do. They just need to constantly stay on that offensive. You look at the damage difference right here. Adouken was tossing out a lot of damage onto the pet, and of course Avenger also doing a lot of damage. You look at Adouken's damage, 479,000 damage, and he is the one that has to cast the most out of anyone in this situation. You know, he can constantly use the Fel Flames to try to build up some embers, but he really needs to get those immolates running, you know, to get that constant flow of those burning embers. So
But
he
the
can
real
burst.
star of this game, I think, was Venruki with 5.6 million damage. And towards the later half of the game, he constantly had every deep freeze. He exploded that frost bomb with the fire blast. He did so much pressure. Snutz just needed to come in for a few seconds, throw a KS wave here and there, and that was just enough to put this team on the defensive. Now, guys, keep in mind, these games are going to actually be played best out of 5. So they're down 1 game, but they're still certainly not out of it. They're going to have an option to pick their maps, change their strategy up a little bit, and we could see a turnaround from this Korean team.
All right, so taking a look at the damage done by Venruki, 160k Frost Bomb, probably towards the end right there. Snutz tossing out 140k Chaos Wave, which isn't too bad. And of course, Avenger did get that 130k Frost Bomb, and Adouken with 144k. Probably a Chaos Bolt, I would say. We didn't see him get off too many, actually, which means that Bring It just doing a great job of shutting him down. I really liked the choice of Adouken killing Snutz's pet constantly. It's interesting to see if that would have paid off in the long run, constantly killing those pets versus dumping damage into somebody else on the team, because that pet provides the mortal strike for the team, and that's a big deal.
Yep.
Because especially where he's using the upgraded pet. So instead of that 15% healing debuff, he actually has a 25% healing debuff coming from the pet. So that's going to be a lot of breathing room for his healer to be able to, use not as much mana, or if in burst situations, they can actually live through things a lot better.
Now, what we saw actually, Venruki build some breathing room basically for Snutz by going, like, Snutz would tell him, I got my pet coming up, and Venruki would go in and go offensive with a Palm Ring of Frost, with a deep freeze, and Snutz would be able to just get enough momentum going so he could metamorphosis and have the resources to spend on those KS waves. They really coordinated that really well.
All right, so it looks like Blade's Edge is going to be next, because our two map bans that have been chosen are going to be Dalaran and Ruins. So the rules are, especially with this best of 5, we're going to see it happen more often. Once the maps that have not been banned have been played, they can start choosing the maps that have been played before. So this is a situation where we might see Blade's Edge now, but if this goes to 5, we could see 3 Nagrands after that. And I wouldn't complain if that happened, to be honest. I mean, I like all these exciting matches when they come down right to the wire. This team of LGIM just doing a great job, even though they did lose against Team Double G before. They look like they're really bouncing back. That last match was pretty close.
Yep. So as we're going to be zoning into Blade's Edge Arena, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams are going to utilize that extra Z-axis. Of course, the mages have the ability to teleport back up if they do use their new Mr. Pandaria ability. It teleports
Alter
them back.
Time, yeah,
Alter Time
it's
puts
very
them back in the
interesting.
same position.
What's great about that ability is, instead of it just being a certain timer, which would have been quite interesting. Basically, you get your mana back, you get the debuffs and buffs, just whatever was on when you hit that.
And the position.
Yep, and the big thing is the positioning. And not only that, you can cancel it at any time. So that means if you jump off and a warrior follows you down, especially on this map, you cancel it and you're back up immediately, which a lot of warlocks like to do. There's situations where if you're playing, Shadow Play, and you have that Shadow Priest and that Mage together, they can alter time right before the Void Shift, and honestly negate the drawback of Void Shift, which switches health. Of course, we are going to be in, and this is Team LGIM is currently down 0-1. Bring It just doing a great job this entire tournament, as we have Venruki is going to be stealthing out as we're following him straight from the start. He is going to, I like this play where he's going to put himself in a situation where he is pretty far back. On this map, we didn't see, there we go, now we see the Demonic Gateway go down I do believe that was Snutz that got that off, and he puts it to the bottom pillar, so that's going to be a pretty defensive role. As you see Venruki getting down that palm ring straight from the start as he gets counterspelled and jumping down. Oh, there we go, now they're going to chase Shocky all the way straight from the start, doing not too much damage to him, as Adouken is going to will out of that fear. I like that he did banish Snutz's pet, so Snutz is really having some problems with his pet in this matchup.
Yep, Adouken and Avenger had to PvP Trinket there just to make sure that they're actually, I think Adouken, why is he there we go. So he actually will have Forsaken, they're not PvP Trinketed. So without that will, he's not going to be as easily able to help Shotki in case he does get in trouble. Shotki gets defrozen here is
again.
Venruki. Yep, there goes that burst damage. Ice Lance is coming out. Venruki gets Blanket CS and Feared out of there, so Shocky should be able to top him off with that buffed heal, but he needs to make sure that he gets to a better position. He's a little bit exposed down here.
He is. Now Shocky is sitting in the ring right now, and he is going to get ringed on top of it since both rings are right there, as we see. Snutz is in a double crowd control. They were really afraid of it, and because Collective couldn't get him, he did actually get out, but look at that. So much damage coming out to Shocky right now as he's trying to get behind the pillar as he tosses it down. I do believe that was a Healing Tide Totem. Yeah, it was. So he's going to get a bunch of healing from that, but it ended up fading. He's down to half, still not able to pick himself back up. Adouken in a full poly right there as it does finally get dispelled. But again, Shocky look at this. He wasn't able.
Yep, coming in. He's got Ascended, but he needs to get some cast off. He uses his Battlemaster Trinket to try to keep himself alive.
That was good though. That was good.
He still has Nature Swiftness available, but that's the only cooldown he really has, along with Spirit Link. Doesn't have his PP Trinket. A pile goes out on everybody. Avenger pops Palm to try to ring her
so
frost,
it's a
but
double ring right now.
Gets out of it really quickly.
Yep. So that looks like Shocky was caught into it. So was Snutz's pet and one of the water elementals. Shocky still hasn't been able to pick himself back up to full. These shamans can heal for so much. There we go. All right. The second he got one cast off, up from half up to full, as it looks like he is going to be healing himself with those Riptides. But Collective taking a lot of damage right now. That burst damage coming out onto him as he has to drop down. But look at that. He is rooted yet again as a Slowfall Mage comes down with Icy Veins up, on-use Trinket up. As
Blood Fear and Collective, and he's going to be sitting in this. There goes another Frost or Bomb, and he's going to take a lot of damage there. He has to get out of that. He's running back because Snutz and Venruki are peeling really well for him. So he's back in a good position. They're quite far away from him. So we're going to see a deep freeze onto Shocky, and a little bit of damage. There comes the damage. Shocky needs to get out of there in case he wants to live. Venruki used that unused Trinket, but Snutz was feared. He wasn't able to really help out.
Adouken is really helping his team out with those fears exactly when Shocky is getting deeped, as we see a Howl on to both Adouken and Avenger. Avenger having to Trinket that, who's down to half right now by himself, down at the bottom, trying to find his Shaman right now, who's up top. And there we go. Now the Shaman is able to heal him up quite a bit right there, as both Enchantress Ward and his Ice Barrier are used, providing a pretty big amount of absorbs on there. And as we see, Venruki looking to try to make something happen with this, because he is hexed right there, jumping down, and look at that. They are going to be onto Collective right now, who is going to get howled. So is Snutz. No Tremor available right now. He's can't tell whose ring that is. I do believe that was
Dark Soul gets Spellstoned by Venruki. He's got Adouken's Dark Soul, so he doesn't he doesn't have that extra critical strike damage for when he Chaos Bolts. Adouken is taking a bit of damage here, but Shocky is actually the main target by that Phase Bulwark, just preventing so much damage coming at him. He popped it at the perfect time there, but look at the mana difference. Collective sitting so well, but Snutz is down. Snutz is down to 50% health. Okay, he gets out of there.
There we go.
Shocky has no mana left.
He's going to use that Sacrificial Pact yet again, but the strategy for LGIM is not kill Snutz's pet this time. Whether because of the map or not, I'm not sure, but Shocky gets deeped right now. Looks like he might be okay, though. Those Chaos Waves not doing too much damage, but I like that Snutz is choosing to use those Chaos Waves when the enemy team is kind of stacked up. We know that it's great burst damage onto a single target, but when it's more than one, it can put those Shamans so far behind.
Yep. Well, Shocky has been actually spending his mana really quickly because of those AoE Chaos Waves. He has to heal so many more targets, and Adouken is, rotting a little bit. Avenger hasn't taken too much damage, but actually Shocky is going for a little bit of a drink, and Venruki is under a little bit of pressure here. No, Shocky gets feared, but there goes a defreeze onto him. Are we going to see a Frostbomb follow-up?
No, that was a great job right there. Venruki wasn't able to get over to Shocky to provide that little extra damage after he did get deeped, as looks like Adouken right now trying to cast onto Venruki. He's really struggling with keeping those immolates up. Collective doing a great job of removing them when they're absolutely necessary, as he is going to AE an immolate, so he is going to have that up on everyone. So it is going to generate a lot more Burning Embers. As you can see, he's not... Oh, no, there he is. Okay, so he does have a lot. He was going to go fake for that Chaos Bolt. Wasn't able to get one off because Shocky's down to half right now, but he's in a good position right now. not in line of sight of anyone quite yet, but he doesn't have his teammates completely full as we see a long heal going out by Shocky, who's trying to conserve mana.
Adouken popping the unused trinket and the Dark Soul, but he gets swapped on himself. Blankets, yes, and Venruki's preventing any kind of damage from him. Adouken was trying to land some really big burst. Venruki not letting him do that. Venruki seems to be the target, but if he does get a Palm Ring of Frost, that gets Adouken. We might see a little bit of damage coming out of that. We want to see some CC on Shocky though. Maybe a fear here. No, there goes a Deep Freeze, and Shocky is actually a vulnerable target. There goes the Chaos Waves, but he pops that Phase Bulwark. He should be able to live, even with that blanket CS.
He thought, I had a feeling he thought he was on the other pillar, which you can actually run behind a little bit more, trying to line of sight a bit as that Chaos Wave is going to hit. You can see Snutz putting up Doom every time he can. It's going to be one of those extra buffs that they're going to have to remove. Look at that, the health of LGIM starting to rot down, but look at Venruki taking a lot of damage, needing to use that Incanter's Ward, and he does block, and I like that early block because Collective did not have a trinket up, and he was, I believe, full counterspelled at that point on his Holy Tree. Snutz, again, not having Demonic Rebirth up, which means that he did have his pet killed a little earlier, but Venruki still trying to make things happen for his team. He's going to be the person that needs to set up so that Snutz can know that if his Chaos Waves are going to hit a vulnerable target, that Venruki's Burst is going to be there to help him out.
Yep, we just saw Adouken trinket Deep Freeze just so he could live. He's got the Immortal Strike debuff on him, so he's taking a lot more damage, and the healing from Shocky is going to be hard to put on him. But Shocky did get a drink a little bit earlier, so he's not struggling on mana as much as he was before. Venruki's got his unused trinkets, but Adouken's just so good with the Halotare, Howls the whole team.
This offensive push allowed Shocky right there to get a couple sips off, which means that he's almost up to where Collective's mana is. And if you look throughout this entire match, except for a couple times when Venruki took a lot of damage, Collective in a full sheep right now. Just as I said that, there wasn't too much trouble from LGIM onto the team of Bring It. There's been a couple times that Venruki has been taking some damage as he's spamming that spell steal constantly to try to get those buffs off of both. It looks like Shocky completely stripped clean of buffs.
Yep, you can see Venruki actually has 2 Riptides on him. That's that power of that spell steal. Of course, Adouken is going to be looking to set up some burst right here. He's building his Embers, but Shocky eats a Deep Freeze. Are we going to see a Frostbomb out of that?
Yep. Yes,
we do. He drops down to 50% health with the Hex and Adouken. Adouken does get dispelled out of that by Avenger, and Shocky's going to be looking to get in a little bit better position. Venruki does only have 1 Ice Block left, so he's a very valid target for Adouken and Avenger to go on. And as we can see, they're trying to set up something on Adouken.
Yeah, look at Adouken right now. That was a great job by both Snutz and Venruki as he gets feared away right before Snutz, as we see the Chaos Bolt coming up right now as it is going to land onto... Oh, Venruki gets the Dispel on the Dark Soul very quickly. We see a Frostbomb come out because he is going to have that crit thing. He doesn't need to deep into it as Adouken taking a lot of damage. And again, using that big defensive combo of Dark Regen and Health Stone to just absolutely heal the full. Avenger taking a little bit of damage here too. Shocky getting feared away as he is going to Tremor out of that, but again, look at the mana of Collective doing a little bit better job than Shocky, but I do like that Snutz is starting
a double CC on Snutz and Collective, and Venruki's in a lot of trouble. He dips down to 30% health. He pops that Ice Bear and Incanter's Ward, but he still has to Ice Block. And we do believe this is the last Ice Block. It hasn't been too long. He had to Cold Snap it, so he doesn't really have anything out. He does have a PvP trinket, and Collective has that, but without an Ice Block.
Big deal. But we see Dark Soul. And, there we go. Dark Bargain absolutely negating that as he is going to take the damage after it, however. But with a blanket counterspell onto Adouken, that was an interesting choice right there. We'll see if they can make something happen after it. But of course, Shocky not having a trinket right now, with Venruki having to will out of that last fear. Snutz's unused trinket has faded at this point, so he isn't going to have that extra damage. Great fear right there. It is going to force a Tremor out. So right now, Shocky does not have Tremor, and he does not have a trinket right now. But look at Collective taking a lot of damage right now as he's down to half, using that uninterruptible part of
Spirit Walker's Grace.
Spirit Walker's
he's able to
Grace.
cast while moving, and for 5 seconds he's unable to be interrupted, so the only way to stop that is to stun him or maybe knock him back. Snutz has been sitting a lot of CCs. I've seen a lot of hexes coming out from Shocky onto Snutz, while the Polymorph lands the Collective, and Venruki is the target.
Adouken taking a lot of damage right now.
Is taking a lot of damage, but it seems like Avenger is also a viable target for these two players. Snutz and Venruki are switching between Adouken and Avenger, not really touching Shocky anymore since the beginning of the game. He's been having a lot better position. A higher terror goes out onto Venruki and Snutz, and a Deep Freeze on Collective.
Oh, with a full poly onto Collective also, who's going to sit the entire thing without trinketing. Oh, Nerves of Steel from him as another Chaos Bolt comes out. Oh, wow, Venruki doing a great job jumping down and line of sighting that. But look, he's taking a lot of damage right now. That Frozen Orb coming out, giving the mage so many Fingers of Frost to work with. So many Ice Lances coming out as Venruki's really low. And that block comes back up and he uses it. Wow.
And Collective also had to PvP trinket. So if we take a look
looks
at
like
the
Cold
cooldowns
Snap,
Collective has, he doesn't really have much left for him. He has that Spirit Link,
Shocky.
but he doesn't have
that.
DNS.
I love this every single time.
Shocky predicts that burst a little bit with
Oh,
the
but
phase
look,
bulwark, but
Venruki not even healed
so
up,
low, yeah.
because Collective is now feared right now as he is going to Tremor out of it. Luckily that Tremor was up, but he hasn't used, let's see, Collective's cooldowns. You know, he did use Spirit Link just a little while ago, so he doesn't have too much up right now. We see that Frostbomb go out. It doesn't look like it landed on anyone, however. And the big thing to note if you're watching at home, that Mortal Strike debuff is it looks like an Arcanite Reaper icon. That's going to determine how much less healing that the target's going to take because he keeps swapping it around, which is awesome to see. So it means Shocky's going to take going to have to heal a lot more as he gets put into a half poly right there after that Fear Avenger, down to half right now. But it looks like he had the Cold Snap just a little while ago, so he's going to have that second block up. However, Venruki's going to have a while on Cold Snap. Looks like about a minute left, I do believe, as Venruki is down to half right now. This is not a good situation for Bring It right now. Full Fear onto Snutz right there. He's not going to be able to get out of it. It looks like there is going to be a little while onto Tremor as Collective is going to toss down that Ascendance as he does get ringed. He almost was out of that ring, but Avenger taking a lot of damage right there as Shocky having to NS right there. So he is actually...
But look at Venruki. Oh. Venruki's down solo. He doesn't have an Ice Block left, and Snutz was sitting in a Hex. Collective needs to get him and needs to land some heals. Venruki's spell stealing is trying to get as much healing done. And there he is with Collective behind the pillar. They're quite safe for a little bit, but he's still capable of dying. Avenger seems to be the target of choice for Snutz and Venruki, but Venruki is not really willing to go out as offensively as he used to be before.
He absolutely can't because he still has 45 seconds on that Cold Snap, which will allow him to block yet again since Hypothermia is off. Full Fear onto Collective, which means Snutz is going to have to trinket that last crowd control as he gets back into Demon form to get that aura back up. Adouken starting to cast that. Oh, look at that.
There comes the
great job. Axe toss right there. Stunning from the pet, but Venruki down to half right now, stealing that Dark Soul yet again, getting that crit bonus, which will help him out if he's not going to deep his target. But Collective trying to do everything he can. Oh, wow. He was going to try to get that Hex off, but he was, I do believe that was a counterspell right there onto him as Adouken's down to half right now, who he doesn't have too much. There we go. Now he's going to port up using that Dark Regen, that Hellstone, to get a bunch of health to help out Shocky, because Shocky's hurting on mana. Look at the mana difference between Collective and Shocky right now. Shocky down to 50,000, and I think one of the big things to note is look at the amount of Dooms that are all over the enemy team. That is a big amount of damage during that burst that if it procs at the same time that they are trying to hit somebody. As we see a Palm and an Alter Time go off from Avenger, he's using a lot of cooldowns right now as he's going to Palm, I do believe that was a Palm Poly onto Collective, but
followed with a Fear, so Collective sitting in the Fear doesn't have a Tremor or a PvP, and Venruki and Snutz are taking damage, but a deep on Shocky. He does come out.
Palm Ring going out, Avenger taking a lot of damage, Shocky taking a lot of damage with the ring onto Adouken also. Avenger blocking, that was a great use right there. Snutz forcing so many defensive cooldowns out of this enemy team, and if he can keep it up, this is what's going to let him win as that Battlemaster Trinket faded off of Shocky. So worried about it as he tries to get away from those Chaos Waves as Adouken taking so much damage, having to Trinket, having to Dark Bargain. Oh wow, that's so much out of him. He doesn't have much left.
He just waited for the perfect moment where Adouken and Avenger were together. Shocky 2 and that Chaos Wave just hit everybody for insane amounts of damage. Adouken is taking quite a bit of pressure here because Shocky's just so low.
Full Poly onto Collective, deep onto Venruki right now with the Frostbomb not landing though. Collective sitting through that because he doesn't have a PvP trinket up. We have a deep freeze onto Shocky though. Here comes the Frostbomb as a counterspell goes on top of it. Axe toss on top of it also. He's going to barely live as that Spirit Link Totem lets him live. Great job by his team coming over to help out as we see that double ring. Could be a triple ring onto the team of LGIM.
And there goes another Frostbomb. He's down to 30% health. He's barely able to keep himself alive. A Hex comes out on an Avenger, and they really need to provide the heals for him.
Adouken now tossing. Look at that. Here we go. Now a Chaos Bolt on to Collective. No way of stopping it as it's going to go up. Collective down to 100,000 health. Shocky's taking so much damage.
Down solo and he goes down.
Oh, wow. Over and over. Adouken really risked it there, and I think it was a good play. I think it was a good idea. He knew that Collective did not have the trinket. That Chaos Bolt onto him could have meant so much damage. And I do believe he's running Kill Jaden's Cunning. I'm not 100% sure, which means that he's going to be able to cast while running in that situation.
It's a little bit slower, of course.
All right, wow, look at that. That was such an exciting match right there.
Yep, the team of LGIM was tunneling Venruki. They were just trying to get as many cooldowns, and they forced 3 ice blocks, but that just wasn't enough. Collective and Venruki had the perfect communication. Snutz was able to land those Blood Fears just in time to protect them, and the AoE potential from that Chaos Wave from Snutz just was too much to handle. Once we saw the whole team drop down low, that Spirit Link totem didn't actually top them off. Right after the Spirit Link, because the other players were low, they were all hovering about 40% health.
Absolutely, and I liked that he was identifying every situation, especially on Blade's Edge. The combination that Snutz has of Howl of Terror, which is going to be reduced every time he's hit. So he's not going to be hit too much, so that's good. But the big thing to note is Howl of Terror plus Chaos Wave, which means he can punish the enemy team every single time they group up.
Yep.
So that means that in a map such as Blade's Edge, where you have to play either on top of the pillars, or on top on the edge of the bridge rather, because your healer has to have something to line of sight on. If not, you're either trying to range as much as you can, but because mages can turn a game around so quickly, being able to blink and palm ring or deep somebody once they get some fingers and stuff, playing that long-ranged game, which used to be safe for rest of Shamans on Blade's Edge, isn't as viable anymore.
So it looks like the map choice for the next game is going to be the Grand Arena. LGIM wants to come back to the original map, but they're already down 2-0, so they're going to need to come up with some strategies to turn it around. Maybe they need to target Collective a little bit more, because they were almost killing him in the group matches before. It was just so close that, just a little bit, like 1,000, 2,000 more damage and he would have died. That's how low Collective got. So we might see them switch their strategies up a little bit. I really also would like to point out that every time LGIM goes offensive, Snutz has the opportunity of popping Metamorphosis and Chaos Wave, and since when they go offensive, usually Adouken and the mage on that team, they're all together and they're all taking damage together. Shocky is there usually supporting with the purges. So it's a double-sided sword to try to kill somebody on Snutz's team.
All right, so we are going to be running into the next match, and like I said before, I'd love to see lots of Nagrand, especially because on this map, when that Chaos Wave goes to punish, it means that they are going to be pillaring, basically. So if they are back with their Resto Shaman, or if both Avenger and Adouken are playing a lot more offensive, trying to chase around the pillar, Snutz has an excellent opportunity to turn it around on them. So let's take a look at it. I don't believe I see any changes out. Looks like everyone is running basically the same. Of course, we're going to see the mages running Frost. We are going to see Adouken playing that Destruction yet again. As
I wonder if Shocky's still gonna go with the Phase Bulwark talent. He did use it a lot better in the second game. He predicted the burst very well. After playing a couple of matches against Venruki and Snutz, he knows a little bit better about when their cooldown usage is gonna happen. So a few times we saw Venruki and Snutz blow all their major cooldowns, and Shocky just came out of it just fine. He maybe had to pop a Nature Swiftness, which is a pretty short cooldown for a Shaman.
It's a minute right now. Both Druid and Shaman's Nature Swiftness, called the Ancestral Swiftness now, of course. As Venruki is going to stealth out from the start. As we're watching Collective, you see him casting a bunch of purges straight from the start, which is going to cost him a little bit of mana, but he'll be able to get that back as the match goes on, although we see a double ring right there. But Avenger having to will out of that fear too. We have a Frost Bomb onto Venruki right there as it explodes, as Collective is deep right there. They're really trying to push this offensive burst at the start, as we see a double coil right there.
And a Hex on Snutz, CC across the whole team, and Venruki has to run away. He has to get to Collective and get topped off here. His Ice Barrier goes off, but we're going to see Avenger pushing in. Maybe he's pushing a little bit hard, as we see that Mortal Strike debuff on him. He doesn't have that PvP trinket anymore. Venruki needs to get topped off by Collective, though. Adouken can line up that big Chaos Bolt at any point. As we see Snutz's fear here in the map, he's unable to help his team. And Collective, a deep and a poly, exactly. Venruki is in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, as he's at like 3/4 life right now, living a bit. Another poly on to Collective right now, but luckily Venruki is playing defensive enough. Actually, no, he's using the offensive pillar, but he's staying with his team. Now, this is the kind of situation where Snutz can start to punish the enemy team. Snutz's pet gets back into it as he is going to target. Looks like he's not going to get that Mortal Strike up on to anyone quite yet, as we see a ring on Shocky. Full ring, going to have to sit through the entire thing. There we go, followed by a deep onto it. He's down to half right now. Here comes the damage as he's left.
Frost Bomb leaves him at 30% health. He has to use cooldowns once again to live. He has a grounding totem, so he'll be able to land those heals, but Adouken is down pretty low as well. Venruki did use that unused trinket to do this kind of damage, so Deep is going to be down for a little bit, so we might see Adouken go for some big chaos bolts here.
Absolutely. Now the big thing to note is both shamans haven't needed to use too much. Snutz, of course, using that sacrificial pact. As you can see, his pet is now down to 43% life, but he's not choosing to target that this time. Adouken before was killing it. That didn't work too well in the first match, it looked like, so that they are going to go away from that strategy. As you can see, the dooms starting to pile up onto LGIM. A great job right there by Snutz, because it's so much damage over time, which is so important in this kind of matchup. Avenger is taking some damage right now using that. He had to use the Incanter's Ward right there. As you can see, the buff after taking so much damage after it fading. Grounding goes down to stop a little damage. Adouken getting that Havoc up as he's trying to build more embers as fast as he can. Oh, here comes the Chaos Bolt right now.
Is it going to land? No, Venruki line of sight just
great.
in time.
Yep.
He comes out. Now he's down to 30% health.
He is?
No, Collective eats it deep. Are we going to see a follow-up on that?
Here comes the Chaos Bolt.
Yeah, there's the sheep.
Oh, line of sighted again. Look at Venruki.
Venruki's so good at knowing just when the cast is about to finish.
And then, so this was a great job. Whether Adouken planned to do this or not, he forced Venruki to line of sight right where his pillar was. But Snutz, of course, was nearby and able to Howl of Terror the second that he ported. That could have been really bad. Snutz right now taking a lot of damage.
No, there's no deep freeze following through. We need to see a deep freeze in the Frost Bomb as well. Collective eats a half DR sheep, and they might. There goes a conflag on Snutz. Are we going to see a Chaos Bolt follow through? Doesn't look like it. Snutz does port back, and he gets away. He's coming back out. There goes a deep freeze on Snutz, and a Chaos Bait Frost Bomb will explode. But Collective sitting in a fear. Venruki gets that Hex. He has to PP trinket. A Mortar Coil goes down to Snutz. He's down to 30% health. Collective
that was
barely able to keep him alive.
Good jump. One of the things to note is, unlike Blink or any other movement talent it's kind of like roll. You can choose which direction that you are going to jump in, and he did the strafe right jump right there to get out of line of sight. As you see, Adouken's trying to get some damage out right now, as here goes the Chaos Bolt. Oh, right at the end, line of sighted yet again. So we see some, there we go. Now he's going to get his targets, his damage back up. He needs to generate those burning embers, as there he goes. His first one is back up right now, as you see him trying to do some damage, getting those instant incinerates up, as Avenger is going to spell steal the Dark Soul back from Venruki, bouncing twice off of 2 different targets, as Venruki is going to get that Brain Freeze proc. Let's see what he does with it.
There goes a Ring of Frost. Shocky is the target of choice. As Adouken is in a Hex, he has to get the spell out of that end. Shocky is in a little bit of trouble. Pops that phase bulwark. Adouken also uses Hellstone and a lot of his cooldowns are there. Shocky's still in a little bit of trouble. He needs to pop some cooldowns. A deep freeze goes down, and he's down, and he goes and dies.
That's Snutz. Definitely, they really forced. I liked the part of that right there that we saw that allowed Bring It to win was both Shocky and it was either Avenger or Adouken. I'm not sure who was standing next to him, but that Chaos Wave hit both. Was Shocky knew that he had to try to get as much healing out as possible. He hit that Ascendance, which is such a big healing buff, but he wasn't able to get any heals off.
Ascendance is not, it's not going to heal you by itself. You still need to cast some heals. It's just going to duplicate them among your allies. So we see actually Team Bring It taking it 3-0 against LGIM, and LGIM has already lost a previous match against an MLS, and they did lose to Team Bring It before in the group stages, so maybe that mirror matchup seems to be their weakness.
Yeah, the thing is Adouken, I mean, I could count on my hands the number of times I saw him cast Chaos Bolt.
Venruki was so good at just waiting for the perfect moment to run behind that pillar and line of sight.
There wasn't too many. The good part about playing Demonology, especially when you're using either the Wrathguard or the Felguard pet, is they have that range stun from the Axe Toss. And that's a huge deal because not only is he going to have the cast time slow from, of course, the aura, but he's also going to have that range stun that he needs from the axe toss, which means even if Adouken uses that unending resolve, gets the damage mitigation, but also makes him uninterruptible, he's still going to be able to get stunned in that, and that's a huge deal.
Yep, and plus, the fact that Demonology's damage is just instant cast, you don't need to sit there and cast for, a good 2.5 seconds, depending on whether you have backdraft or not. You're just going to wait until you have your cooldowns and just go and instant cast your big chaos waves, sometimes 2 in a row.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if going to kill the pet again would have been a great idea. I think that LGIM was assuming that these matches were going to be longer in that first round, and that's why they were starting to kill the pet, because it would have helped out Shockey a lot more with that, losing that healing debuff on his group members. But if we take a look at the highest damage dealt, of course, Snutz with 140k Chaos Wave, Venruki, of course, with that 120k or so Frost Bomb. And of course, Avenger not really getting too much damage out. He really was playing that control game, which I liked. But I think that the combination of Venruki and Snutz, and I would have to say Venruki did most of that in that fight of just knowing exactly when to stop the enemy team.
Yep, even though he was the the focused target there, the team LGIM switched up their strategies all 3 games. He still was able to at the end land those clutch deep freezes and frost bombs to kill.
Absolutely. So that means that in our double elimination bracket that we have today, that is going to be Bring It that's going to move on. So they are in the upper bracket finals. So even though Snutz isn't guaranteed first place just quite yet or second place quite yet, that means they are at least top 3, which means they are going to go home with that nice chunk of change.
I think 27. Snutz would be more happy to get 3rd place than 2nd place.
All right. So it sounds like it is 2-1.